Buddy, it's basically an accepted part of public life now that there are these drills for active shooters, whether they take place in schools, maybe a mall or a police training facility. But it's not often that the general public gets together to learn how to deal with that type of life-threatening situation. But that's what they're doing tonight in North Tonawanda, and that's where we find Channel 2's Liz Lewin now to tell us more about what seems pretty unique, Liz.
Well, Michael, I can tell you the rise in recent mass shootings has understandably also given rise to a lot more worry and concern. At this point, we've now seen supermarkets, schools, churches, houses of worship, a lot of everyday places targeted by these mass shootings. So a lot of people are now wondering if they themselves are in a scenario like this. What do you do? So as you mentioned tonight, North Tonawanda is going to be answering that question. The police department is hosting an active shooter drill at 6 o'clock inside the Student Alumni Center, where they will be identifying and responding to active shooter events to keep people safe. The presentation is going to include strategies and guidance, plans for surviving active shooter situations. Attendees will also get an opportunity to learn more about medical response techniques, in addition to civilian response options that don't involve carrying a weapon. I actually spoke to Chief Glass not long ago, who worked with Mayor Austin Tylick to plan tonight's event. Here's what he had to say.
Not everybody wants to carry a gun. Not everybody's comfortable with carrying a gun. And those are the people we're targeting tonight. We want to give these people the information on what to do to survive an event like this if you don't have a weapon.
Well, Michael, this presentation is free, and again, it starts at 6. Attendees are being asked to bring a non-perishable or toiletry donation to support residents in Buffalo who were affected by the top shooting back on May 14th. As we know, that growing need is still out there, so anything you can bring is helpful. Again, really interesting, Michael, as you mentioned, a lot of people have concerns and worries, and they just don't have the tools or knowledge on how to approach these situations. It'll be my first time going to a program like this, so tonight at 11, I'll bring you all these details that hopefully you can share with your family later this evening. We're live in North Tonawanda. Liz Lewin, Channel 2 News.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the turnout tonight. We'll look forward to that report, Liz. Thank you. Right now, we want to turn to a special report from our Verify team looking at the mass shooting that happened at the Tops here in Buffalo last month. We know from authorities that the supermarket shooter was wearing a ceramic body armor plate capable of protecting him from the bullets that were fired from the armed security guard who engaged him. Well, in response to that, the state legislature quickly passed and the governor signed into law a ban on the sale of body armor to most people. But now there are questions about whether it would have applied to the grocery store attacker. So tonight, let's verify. Would the recently passed gun reform law have prevented the sale of that body armor used by the Buffalo mass shooter? Our sources here are the text of the new law and another part of New York's penal law as well, and Dr. Warren Eller, chair of the Department of Public Management at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice at the City University of New York. So first to the new law, which says that a person is guilty of unlawful purchase of a body vest when not being engaged or employed in an eligible profession, so something like a police officer, they knowingly purchase or take possession of a body vest. So that would seemingly apply to the Buffalo mass killer. But look right there. It says body vest is defined in another section of the law. And if you go there, it is defined as, quote, a bullet-resistant soft body armor. What the Buffalo shooter used was a hard plate. Professor Eller put it this way.
It's my impression that the language of the bill as it is would have done nothing in terms of the shooter in Buffalo. While a soft bulletproof vest does offer an awful lot of protection, a soft bulletproof vest is different from body armor, and it is different from the, importantly, in my view, it's different from the body armor used in the Buffalo shooting that inspired a lot of these actions.
Despite this law's potential shortcomings, the professor says that it is still a good step forward, and he says maybe the result of good intentions.
Bad things happen, atrocious things happen, and we want to respond, and we want to respond pretty quickly. What I would believe probably happened is people said, I've got this bill, this bill, this bill, and this bill all ready to go. And this was legislation that was predicated on different instances.
Bottom line, we can verify no, the recently passed gun reform law would not have prevented the sale of the body armor that was used specifically by the Buffalo mass shooter. The bill's sponsor told Verify today that the definition of body armor may need adjusted because of this, so it would cover those hard plates. He said that he will fight to make that happen when the state legislature is back in session in January. If there's something you want us to look into, you can send an email to verify@wgrz.com or send us a text to 716-849-2220. So even before the discussions of mental health linked to the recent shootings, there have been concerns about mental health in our schools, particularly because of all the experts that we've heard from over the last few years about how much worse things were becoming with isolation and stress related to the pandemic. Well, now there's this new state report out that finds most New York schools aren't training their staff in how to deal with all of this. That state comptroller's audit looked at 20 school districts across the state over the last year. Just 2 of them included all of the recommended components in their staff's mental health trainings. Things like recognizing warning signs, whom to turn to for help, and how to access crisis support. 6 of those districts didn't include any of the components, including the 2 that they looked at here in Western New York, Eden and Wellsville. So the first question that we had for the comptroller's office today was, why weren't these districts doing this?
There was some challenges on the district's part, quite honestly. Direction being one of them, timing being another. This was in the throes of the pandemic, so there was a lot of issues that the districts were faced with and challenges that they were faced with. But quite honestly, this is an important training, especially in today's world.
And he says it's on the state education department to help them overcome those challenges, because the main takeaway from the comptroller's office is that these trainings need to happen.
Controller DiNapoli felt that this is not a condemnation of any district, but this is a call for action. This is an opportunity for districts to understand that mental health plays a very integral role in their day-to-day operations, and that these are areas that once trained will give the staff members the tools that they need going forward.
We did reach out, by the way, to both the Wellsville and Eden school districts for their response to this audit. Eden's superintendent says that he supports the comptroller's call to action, that this audit made them more aware of the specific training that was needed, and that the district has already included all of those components in next year's training for staff. So they're responding that way. Wellsville hasn't gotten back with us.